All right, we're back. Moving right along. Semifinals up next. We're going to be watching Nathan Steuer versus Sam Dams. The other match is Connor Mullaly versus Josh Feliciano, the Green Line Titan Mirror. We're going to be watching the Death Shadow deck versus the Infect deck. Now, Becky, what is more impressive here?
Mhm.
Sam played Infect for 8 rounds today.
Mhm.
Nathan played different decks but won all 8 rounds. So they were both consistent. Which
Hmm.
one stands
But
out more?
consistent in different ways.
Yeah, exactly.
I personally think that oh, it's so hard. So modern players get this a lot where there's like the merfolk player or somebody who just brings the same deck to every event and like every once in a while does well with it.
Mhm.
Um
Is that what you're saying? You think Sam Doms just was fortunate, he got lucky, he played Infect in both formats, and it was a fluke they made top 8 and not top 4?
well, I'm trying to decide whether it's impressive to like know your deck and know your archetype so well that like you give yourself the opportunity to do well in an event because you just like know the format so well, or
Mm-hmm.
if it's impressive that Nathan brought kind of meta choices and like kind of had an idea of what he would be up against and made decisions based on that.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate you're taking my nonsense question seriously. We're going
yes,
to
of
go with
course.
Nathan Steuer, undefeated on the day. Nathan Steuer is a player who Becky and I have both seen around at events over the last several years. He's 19 years old now. I would say I probably started seeing him at events when he was maybe 14. Um, Given that all Wizards qualifying events now have an age limitation of 18 plus. A few years ago, Nathan wouldn't have been eligible to play in this event, but here he is now. He's 19 and he's crushing.
Yeah.
This
No,
is a
he's been playing Magic longer than me and he's younger than me.
Mhm.
So 6 years
Yeah,
younger than me, playing Magic longer than me, it's kind of nuts.
yeah. Nathan Steuer, a kid who for a while was frustrated, came close a few times, couldn't quite qualify for the Pro Tour. Finally got that under his belt, and then looking to pick up another one here as all players left, two wins away from a seat in the Kaldheim Championship.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and go through the deck list as you haven't seen Nathan at least for a few hours. His
Yeah.
deck list is the two set. I keep referring to this two sets of Death Shadows. I could also say it's two sets of Scourge of Skycleaves. Either way, two sets of cards based on life totals dropping,
Mhm.
and some haste creatures held together by removal, discard, and something that I feel like we don't always see in decks like this: card drawing with Night's Whispers.
I mean, if you were gonna tell me like what would I have a lot of fun playing with in a modern league that wasn't Tron, it would be this. It would just be like a nice deck that like it feels like all the pieces work well together. I'm trying to play creatures, I'm trying to do things that will make them big, and then I'm trying to just remove everything that's in my way. And then
Yeah,
we've got some thought seizes and some nice little card draw on the side to just like make it all come together nicely.
mm-hmm.
So this deck looks nice. It looks like it's consistent, and it looks like you have a little bit of everything, especially in your sideboard. You got your Blood Moons, Kozilek's Returns. You've got a little bit of something to deal with anything.
Mm-hmm.
And you're
And,
playing Loris.
and I think of particular importance here is that all the removal, there's a lot of removal, and it's all cheap,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which is great against Infect. Let's go ahead and look at Sam Dom's deck. We were unsure of the pronunciation of Sam's last name, so we went with Dam's last round. We're going with Dom's this round. If he wins
Okay.
again, we'll do something else. So here we see the Infect deck that we just watched. We saw Phrasing Crusader absolutely dominate last round because it was basically
Oh
unanswerable
yeah.
by the mostly mono white deck.
Mhm.
Um,
We say mostly mono white, considering that the two cards that were red in the other deck were Megas the Moon and Boil. Boil not obviously going to be very good against this. So basically uncontested protection from white creature.
yeah, the basically was reference to the Walking Ballistas, which could actually interact with it.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yes. No, that was a big deal, and it did win John Ryan Hamilton a game. So
Yeah. So here we have now. There's actually hidden text on Freaking Crusader that didn't come up last round, but if we look at the fine print, first strike, protection from white, protection from red.
true.
So still really strong.
Still
Not
really strong.
not quite as good as there are removal spells that can hit it and lots of black creatures, but some protection.
Some protection.
We
Yes.
did see Nathan win a game today with double Swiss Spear, double Lightning Bolt, no black removal, no black creatures. So
Yep.
if he has that draw, Crusader is going to just wreck house. But if he has the other kind of draw, not so much. And here we are, top 4 kicked off. Both players, actually, it looks like, is Nathan down a card? Yeah, Nathan mulled to 6, Sam on 7 with 1 land.
But is it really a mull to 6 if you have Loris as your companion?
Okay, so it's a mull to 7. All right, Nathan Steuer on a mull to 7 as Loris indeed matters. This game could easily play out long enough where Nathan's able to leverage that.
Loris, quite a bit better than like the Tron decks that were playing Gigantha, that you were just playing as a 8 mana 5/5. Sometimes is a beat stick. Loris actually has a relevant ability that is going to be quite good. Should we get to that point in the game?
Did you try that as Nathan decides what to take with the slots here?
I did try it a little bit.
Did you? I did not.
I was talking with Lady of the Crease quite a bit, and she mentioned that Jim had wrote an article on it and was trying it out, and I thought, what the heck? I'm down for trying a bunch of spicy things in Tron. Mm-hmm. So I gave it a shot for a few times, and I didn't do it enough to feel like it was all that important. In the games where I did play it, it wasn't like winning me the game, so I just figured it wasn't really worth it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we do have confirmation. It is Sam Doms. He's from Belgium, so we'll try and do that correctly from now on. Apologize, Sam, earlier in the day. We definitely got it wrong. And then we do see the land drop is missed from Mr. Doms. Can Nathan take advantage? It's going to be tough, as even though Sam is short on land, he has multiple castable removal spells.
Castable removal spells. We can even cast the Scale Up and the Might of Old Corrosa. Overgrown Tomb doing a good job at being both a swamp and a forest for us.
Mm-hmm. And Nathan has to face the fact that even though he's neutral on cards now, he did take that mulligan and then Knight's Whisper to bring himself back up on cards. He has all the tools to stay even in his deck, but he's going to need to draw them because unopposed, this Infect deck can get things over with pretty quickly.
We mentioned lightly before also it being rather nice for Nathan to not really have to worry about his life total, as the Infect deck doesn't really attack your life total so much as doing damage in the form of Infect, which is completely separate from your life total.
Mm-hmm. So Sam draws a fetch line here, much needed. Shocks again, which grows the Scourge of the Skycleaves, but Scourge of the Skycleaves is going to quickly exit the game, and Nathan's offense is gone. Listener Elf unopposed, and Nathan knows the bulk of Sam's hand, and if Loris gets picked up here, Nathan might die.
If we have another land where we can get rid of the Glistener Elf as well as bring Loris into our hand, I think we're actually in quite a fine spot.
Yeah, that was a very nice turn for Nathan. Sam misses the third land drop again, but Plague Stinger and Noble Heart was the draw, so there's certainly a lot of work to be done next turn. It looks like with Scale Up and Hierarch, that would be an attack for 7, which is not enough to kill Nathan, but would put him in a pretty dangerous position.
Attack for 8, yes.
Scale Up?
Correct, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I always forget that it's change base power and toughness, not
No,
plus
it's
6
an easy thing to miss because it feels like it's plus 6.
It just always feels like it's so much, and I am so frustrated by it every single time. Oh, this is going to be a big ol' Fatal Push, and also a big ol' Death Shadow back from the graveyard, thanks to the Graveyard Cat Loris.
Lots of... I think that we've seen 5 Fatal Pushes cast this game.
A lot. Let's see. There's definitely 3 in the graveyard of Sam Doms and at least 2 in the sideboard of Nathan. So yeah, a total of 5 Fatal Push. And that's all 3 Fatal Pushes out of Sam Doms' deck.
Yeah. Now this is a tough spot though, because Fatal Push on Death Shadow buys you a turn, but the Loris will just allow it to come right back. If by not doing it, you allow Sam allows the Scourge of Skycleaves to come back instead, so it's not getting any better.
Yeah.
But the Fatal Push not having Revolt turned on, very significant right now.
Yeah. There aren't as many reliant ways for Dom's deck to enable Revolt compared to Nathan's deck.
One of them may be blocking with Noble Hierarch. right now.
I'd be down to do it, honestly, at this point. I think that Luris, we mentioned that if it gets to the point, Luris is just going to be able to make these creatures recur and be a little too difficult for us to deal with. And we don't really have a way to push through the last, and it's not even the last bit. Like Nathan, yes, is at 5. Maybe we could attack with this Noble Hierarch and kill him when he's at 5.
You're right. So this is
so that is something to be considered.
Yeah, it definitely is. In fact, if Nathan has something like, if all Nathan has is a creature to put down, then this Hierarch could actually attack through on opposed next turn, fatal pushing something out of the way, and then coming in with either pump spell to win the game. Wouldn't that be something? But
it's always wild to me when the Infect deck win with normal damage.
Yeah, it's terrific. Let me tell you, as someone who lost a Grand Prix Game 3 in the finals to regular damage.
Oh no.
Yeah, if you haven't heard this, and I'm sure some of the people in chat have, yeah, I lost a Grand Prix Finals Game 3 to a 22-power Noble Hierarch when my opponent had every single mana source in their deck locked down from back to basics.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was brutal, let me tell you. But back to the matter at hand here, Nathan Steuer somehow adds 2 haste creatures to the board all of a sudden.
And I'm trying to feel sorry for you and your story, but also very surprised by this attacking that's coming in and happening. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight Scourge thinking about it.
Something that I thought about leading into this turn was that Nathan would be wise. Now, there's no way Nathan's going to expect the third Fatal Push to be in Sam Dom's hand.
Oh, of course not.
By not casting his graveyard card this turn pre-combat, if the Hierarch blocks the Death Shadow, which it's likely to do anyway, then the Fatal Push could have Revolt and take out the Luris during the damage resolution step, whatever that's called, before the second main phase is attained, which would mean that the Luris would die without being able to cast anything. Now, maybe some, just isn't in a position to be able to do that. But
it is interesting also now, Luris does have lifelink.
Right.
So we are going to go on Nathan Steurer's side up to 8. Now it's a little harder to die to pump spells.
Yes, it is.
And we're also going to add a blocker to the field.
Yeah. This is now Nathan Steuer is empty-handed, but this now does not look winnable for Sam. Maybe he can survive another turn. As if the non-Scourge damage looks like 5. So a Chumping Hierarch followed by next turn Scale Up and Might of Volcrosa on the Plague Stinger? Maybe Sam is still in this game.
I think that has to be the direction that we're heading in. It is a little scary. Yeah, we have this silent clearing that is going to be cracked for a card. 2 cards now in Nathan Steurer's hand. If there are things that we can play, or maybe one thing that we can play, one of them being the Sunbaked Canyon, could be another draw, or could just be a way for us to crack this Bomat Courier after we attack with it.
Right.
Be another draw for 2. Would be discarding the one in our hand, but that's okay.
Yeah. So Luris doesn't attack this turn. So that
we want to keep the Scourge of the Skyclaves big. So
right. That gives
we don't really want to gain life.
No, you're right. So that gives Sam a little more breathing room. And there is the 6th Fatal Push of the game.
So many Fatal Pushes.
And now I feel pretty comfortable in saying that Sam Doms is going to be looking to his sideboard down a game.
Yeah.
And there it is. So, kind of a blizzard of removal there on both sides.
On both sides, for sure. Yeah. I'm starting to wonder, it seems like the 4 of Fatal Push and Thoughtseize come in every single time, so it seems weird that we're continuously bringing them into our deck, and they're not just in our main deck to begin with.
Yeah, sure. I mean, clearly there are matchups. Well, okay. They are coming in. They are both coming in every time. Yeah. If we're playing against, I don't know, an Omnath deck that we'd probably only see the Thoughtseize coming in. Against Burn, only Push would come in. So Sam Dom's hedged both ways, and that seems okay to me. It looks like a lot of viable sideboard cards. including Grafdigger's Cage, which really only
Doesn't
impacts
Lure.
Lurrus.
But I
Now,
mean, we did just watch Lurrus kind of take over that game.
yeah, Lurrus kicked the crap out of Sam Doms that game, no question there. But that is still a pretty big reaction to a card, but maybe it's
It's
justified.
hard to get.
Let's go ahead and look at what Nathan Steuer has to work with in his sideboard.
All right, so you lightly talked about Feed the Swarm earlier with Caroline, but I don't really know that card.
Okay, so maybe we can bring that up on the screen. It's 2-mana sorcery. It kills a creature or an enchantment, which is a rather unique effect for black.
Yeah, okay. That hasn't really ever been seen before. Well, yeah,
it's a 2-mana sorcery, and you lose life equal to the casting cost of whatever you kill.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so likely not relevant in this matchup, but a cool card that I am not super duper familiar with because it's from the newer set,
right?
Nonetheless.
Well, okay, we say not that relevant, but again, this is a matchup where Nathan does not have to worry about his life total so much. So something that costs you life, again, is safer than it usually normally would be. I don't know that it's better than any of the other removal he already has, or if any of his cards that he decides he doesn't want. I'm not sure what that would be. Maybe you think Team or Battle Rage isn't great because your creatures are vulnerable to removal, so you'll just wait and bludgeon your opponent to death over time instead of all at once and taking a risk. I could see that.
A better removal spell over Lightning Bolt because it can hit the Phyrexian Crusader, whereas Lightning Bolt can't. I don't know. Lightning Bolt's probably still too good against all the other creatures, so that probably isn't really a consideration. But
Feed the Swarm is a reason a reason that kills a Crusader, so that could be relevant. Also, a card that may not stay in is Kroxa. It's a little slow, doesn't impact the board. Nathan may not want to waste his time with that.
That's fair.
Well, let's see. What do we have here? We have an Infect creature and a pile of pump spells. And Sam Doms is going to play slow to protect the Glistener Elf.
Yeah, smart. When your opponent is playing a lot of removal spells, especially 1-mana removal spells, throwing the Glistener Elf out on turn 1, probably not the smartest. However, is probably also going to go into the bin through this Thoughtseize.
Yeah, so I agree with Sam's decision there to hold off because there are fewer discard spells than there are 1-mana removal spells, but there is certainly a risk to this. And it plays out here.
It's a risk you got to take.
Yeah.
Spellskite does not have Defender, so it could certainly go attacking.
That's true. And it while it's doing so, it can, lead the way for the next Infect creature, whatever it may be, that Sam Doms probably needs to draw very soon. Because how much pump damage do we have in hand right now?
A 18. Lot.
18. Spellskite is lethal already if Sam could cast all his spells, which obviously he can't. But
if he could.
If he could, it would be over.
That would be fun. That would be fun to see a little Spellskite win the game.
Should Sam set a precedent for Spellskite going unblocked by beginning to attack now with his O4?
Oh.
Maybe Nathan will get used to just taking 0 over and over again and then not block, and at one point Sam can just annihilate him.
I think it would depend what is on Nathan Stewar's side. Our life total does matter. Nathan Stewar's not so much, unbeknownst to him, possibly, that also the Spellskite could be the giant beat stick. So it's a possibility.
Night's Whisper. Open. Oh no! Fatal Push takes down spells and Death Shadow.
So if the Fatal Push comes down onto the Spellskite, what do you think the chances are that there's just a lot more removal spells in the hand of Nathan Steuer? If you're prioritizing getting rid of Spellskite, what are the chances that you're looking to get rid of more things down the line?
I mean, it's possible. I don't feel like that necessarily is proof of anything because the Spellskite is going to have to be gotten rid of first anyway. But you're certainly, there is merit to what you're saying, but I don't feel confident saying one way or the other. Here we have
Death Shadow and Death Shadow 2.0.
Yeah. Can't even lose both of them to one engineered explosives as they spread mana costs, but they're both big. Well, they're both 4/4s right now, but one has a chance.
Pretty big considering they cost 1 and 2 mana.
Yeah, I guess that is a pretty good deal. Thoughtseize. Taking another look at the plethora of pump spells in Sam Dom's hand. One thing we're certainly missing here by not having blue is the I feel like a lot of blue Infect decks generally have one or two cards that give unblockability, and that's just not present here.
Or they are also playing Blighted,
like Distortion Strike or something. Although you could argue easily that without the Fatal Pushes, Sam would have been overwhelmed. So certainly not a trade that necessarily would be worth making, but something worth considering as far as what the different variations of splash color give and take. All right, so the two shadow type creatures come in for a fair amount of damage. Is this a Battle Rage? No, it looks like maybe Kolaghan's Command, and Sam Doms is maybe ready to pack it in.
Hovering the concede button.
Yeah, what are we looking at here? Could be.
If it's a Kolaghan's Command, it can only deal 2 to this Glistener Elf, and we could Vines.
Well, I was thinking we're past blocking. So, interestingly, okay. I think this is hilarious. The Kolaghan's Command can shoot Nathan to do 2 bonus damage, or can shoot Sam to do 2 bonus damage.
Oh, and deal similar amounts of.
Yeah, so it actually does enough, and Nathan Steuer vanquishes Sam Doms. Lots of fatal pushes on both sides, but Sam Doms was just unable to muster enough of a creature base, really, unable to keep anything on the board for an extensive period of time. The Thoughtseizes played a role, and Nathan Steuer on to the finals.
On to the finals. We, again, mentioning that he is undefeated up until this point still.
Yeah, Nathan Steuer, this is his day, rolling through. If the backup match is still playing the other semifinal, take us to it. If not, tell us what the result was.
Let's go down. What a convenient time to go down to this match.
So, we see here the Green White Titan mirror.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I mean.
Okay, we're going to see another game. That was
okay. That was game 2
of the match. Excellent.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and just go to the deck lists. We may not have them ready because it was the backup match. All right, so we can look at it from here. The 2 deck lists are probably extremely similar, if not carbon copies of each other. We'll find out.
All right, let's see. We're looking at Mullaly's deck right now, and okay, never mind. We're not looking at Mullaly's deck right now, but they do seem to be quite similar.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference is that Zaros, I can't find where his name.
Josh Feliciano,
is playing Simian Spirit Guides. Not very. Okay. He's playing 1, but there is 1 in his deck to do fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right, so it looks like one of the players is asked to take a minute. So if we do get a chance to get the deck lists up, maybe we can go to them. Otherwise, we will just wait this out and continue on. Okay, here we go. Connor Mullaly, Green White Titan. 1 Tangled Florahedron, 1 Skyclave Apparition, which is useful as a tutor target, and especially in this matchup as it can wipe out the Dryad of the Elysian Grove, which is a key card. Really, we're looking at Reclaimer, Dryad, and Primeval Titan as, well, I guess really they are the whole deck. So saying those are the important cards isn't very meaningful. Mm-hmm. And we're in sideboard games. There is a tectonic edge in the board. Land destruction of any sort seems relevant here, so we may well see that.
Ooh, if these games go long, how do you like Kozilek, Butcher of Truth?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, that's certainly, I scanned through it. I see Aven Mind Sensor, which is definitely relevant.
Yes.
And yeah, Kozilek, Butcher of Truth. If we get that far, there was a lot of permanence on the game, on the board that we just jumped into and saw the very teeny end of. So maybe you could do something like that. Let's go. Do we have the other deck list available? Josh Feliciano there's the Simian Spirit Guide that you pointed out. So there are some differences. Maybe just one.
A little bit of differences. That seems to pretty much be the big one. We are even still playing the one of Skyclave Apparition. That card is very important part that has become a mainstay in many formats now.
Both decks had an Aven Mind Sensor on the board, and so I imagine they both came in.
Feliciano does not have a Kozilek, Butcher of Truth. Also notably does not have a tectonic edge in the sideboard, and it doesn't look like is playing any in the main deck.
Okay, well
They are playing a Ghost Quarter, but not a Tectonic Edge.
Okay. So we see here Valakut is the leadoff for Connor and only has one colored source, discounting the Valakut as that doesn't actually cast any of the spells in the deck. So there's a Path, a Reclaimer, an Explore. I'm sure Connor would love to get rid of Josh's Reclaimer, but pathing it, that's not... What do you do here? This is tough.
Not
already.
Exactly doing what you want to do, so
Right.
we'll just copy the play a Reclaimer of our own.
Yeah, not an easily developing hand here as with just one green or white source. And here is Josh sacrificing with Flagstones to the Reclaimer, so the Flagstone replaces itself.
Ooh!
Then the Reclaimer gets in a land, so Josh actually sacrificing a land to gain 2. So it's basically a Harrow going on here, except you can get any land you want.
Wait, okay, so I haven't been too jazzed on anything that I've seen these green-white Titan decks do. This I'm down for.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Using Elvish Reclaimer and Flagstones Atark here, I'm here for that. I like that.
This is a strong interaction and really goes a long way towards setting up the later turns of the game. Flagstones of Troy Care, actually, I said it wrong also. It's Troy Care, it looks like.
Okay.
Is a legendary land, taps for a white, comes into play untapped, which is great. And if it leaves play, if it goes to the graveyard, you can search and put a plains on the battlefield tapped. Notably, it gets any kind of plains, including, in this case, a Sacred Foundry. Yeah, a dual land. And also, in Legacy, it happens. You can search up Savannah, or you can kind of splash dual. So we see Flagstones drawn for Connor, allowing the same play, which...
Yeah.
Really
always cool that you're able to, also like float that land before, or float that mana before you use this ability. Use it to use the ability of Elvish Reclaimer, which we just saw. So, quite a powerful ramp ability in the form of not really ramp cards, just like Little Elf and the lands that you would play in your deck already.
Mm-hmm. So we see second Valakut coming in, and with the Dryad in hand, this could
start to be a nice little 1/2.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be live next turn.
Mm-hmm.
So what can Josh do? Because we see what Connor's got lined up, and it looks pretty strong. That Explore into the sacrifice was another Flagstones for Josh. So there is the potential of sacrificing for a land destruction spell at some point, but here we're going to see Dryad, and this is going to get real strong right away. We see land enter, 2 triggers.
Yeah, get rid of the opponent's Elvish Reclaimer so that they are unable to do a lot more ramping on their side, but one more time we'll do this with Flagstones.
Right, and then if whatever comes up here, with the Reclaimer untapped for Connor, he's already ready to get 2 more Lightning Bolts at whatever point he wants.
2 more Lightning Bolts, again, in the form of Valakut, the Bolt and Pinnacle.
So there is a Valakut on the other side of the board, but
for Josh as well, yeah.
For Josh, but with Connor's Reclaimer ready to go and a Path in hand, there are multiple routes to... Whoa.
Oh, and Vesuva copying Valakut, so now we have even more. Is this lethal? Yep, it looks like it.
Is, and even if it was one short, the Path could then hit the Reclaimer to fire off again, and this game is over with.
Wow.
Whoa. So
okay, so I was
coming back to the booth. Beky Bell, not impressed by Green White Titan half an hour ago. How is it now?
After watching a game and a half, not even a game and a half, a game and a 10th, because we watched literally some things on the board and a right-click concede, but that was pretty cool. Yeah. I had not seen a lot of this deck. Looking at the things that were in the deck, to me it just read as like, okay, it's a primetime deck, whatever. I don't know, I've seen those a million times, but I'm all of a sudden very jazzed about it after watching Elvish Reclaimer and Flagstones of Trocare.
Yeah, and into the finals. And I think notable, at least to me, the confidence in the plays there. There wasn't a
Oh yeah.
lot of, oh, let me figure out what I need to do here. The path was understood, and it was just, I know what I need to do. I see the opportunity. I'm going to do it, and you're going to take a pile of damage. I mean, that was not that far in the game. That was what, turn 5 or 6,
Yeah,
maybe?
that was
And
pretty early.
that was, I mean, that turn, there were 6 burn damage from Valakut and then 9 burn damage from, I'm sorry, yeah, from the Vesuva, and then
And we killed
9 more damage from the Cavern. So that was
and we
real
killed the Endless
damage.
Reclaimer on our opponent's side of the board, so we had more than enough damage in any way.
And we had a path left over, so we had 9 more damage. Why are people bothering to play Burn? This looks like the Burn deck.
Yeah, and we won in basically the same amount of turns.
Yeah,
but we're also playing more fun interactions.
Yeah.
So,
Might be a
I
little
mean, I wonder also how much of how that shook up was kind of the result of it being a mirror. I'm actually very interested now that I've come around on this deck a little bit. We avoided it for a little while, but now I'm like, darn, this seems like it was kind of, okay. I don't based on how we saw the end of game 2, I'm happy that we didn't, because if I had to watch that one, I think I would have felt quite a bit differently. But watching that game 3, I'm very excited to watch it play against the Death Shadow.
Yeah. So
how much of what happened was because it was how it plays against.
Right. So we have quite a finals coming up, as we have Nathan Steuer, who has not lost all day, with Black Red Death Shadow. Beky, I'm not hearing you anymore, so we're gonna go to a break anyway. So I don't know if other people are hearing you or not, but we're gonna have Nathan Steuer versus Connor Mullaly in the finals of our Nerd Rage Showdown. Just a minute. We'll be right back.